Welcome to Law Simplified. I'm excited to deliver the very first episode of our platform. But before I dive into the content, first some disclaimers. Law Simplified is not a platform for lawyers or law students. No. Law Simplified is for Mutuawansi like you and myself. Secondly, Law Simplified does not replace the services of a lawyer. If you have a complicated issue, please always seek legal advisory from qualified lawyers. But we hope that Law Simplified will make the lawyer sometimes unnecessary, or even where you engage them, it will make their work easier or maybe their service cheaper for you. When we return, we dive into the content. In this episode, we are going to appreciate what is the law, who makes the law, who implements the law, and who intervenes when we are in conflict with the law. Now, like we promised here at Law Simplified, we shall always try to avoid legal jargon, to use simple language that we can all appreciate. Now, what is the law? Now, if it's important for you to understand that if you are living alone in the world, probably there would be no need for law. But because we are very many, and we oftentimes come into contact and in conflict with each other, it is important that we have rules and regulations that enable us to live harmoniously and that promote and protect our lives. Therefore, simply put, the law refers to the rules that any society uses to regulate the actions and inactions of its members, or you can call it the do's and don'ts of a given society. Now, you might be wondering, where does this law come from? Who makes the law? Now, world over, there are so many sources of the law. God makes the law, culture makes law, and all that. But for the purpose of our learning today, especially if you are in Uganda or a country whose governance system is Republican like that of Uganda, Parliament makes the law. We are looking at the basics of your social studies, where there are three arms of government: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Now, the arm that is charged with making the law is Parliament, the legislature, where you send your representatives, the members of Parliament. In Uganda, the supreme law of the land, the most important law that establishes government and that defines all our rights and obligations as citizens, is the Constitution. And at this point, I would like to beckon you, as a viewer of Law Simplified, to go on Google and download the 1995 Constitution of Uganda and just go through it to understand your rights and your obligations. But besides the Constitution, because we cannot have every law in the Constitution, Parliament then also enacts specific laws for specific issues called the statutes, or the ones we call Acts of Parliament. So there is an Act of Parliament to regulate contracts, there is an Act of Parliament on issues of the environment, and all that. But again, because Parliament cannot possibly have specific expertise on every issue, and may not have the time to legislate on the minute details, Parliament has power in the Constitution to lend some of its power to other authorities to make what we call subsidiary law. For example, in many statutes, Parliament allows ministers, permanent secretaries, or organs like the Law Council, like the National Environment Authority, to make some regulations under what are called statutory instruments. So like during the COVID times, we saw the Minister of Education making law in form of statutory instruments to deal with the issues of standard operating procedures, or the SOPs. And in some cases, when judges are implementing, interpreting, and during adjudication, now we are in the judiciary arm, they also make pronouncements which also form law. So all we have said is that Parliament is the premium institution that makes law, but it gives some power to organs and authorities within the executive and players within the judiciary to make some laws. Now, under the principle of separation of powers that I don't intend to bore you with now, after Parliament has made the law, Parliament does not execute or implement that law. It is the executive arm of government headed by the President that is charged with the duty to implement law. Parliament is headed by a Speaker of Parliament, just as the judiciary is headed by a Chief Justice. Now, in the process of implementation, through agencies like the police, like the army, like the ministries that provide services, Minister of Finance that deals with the resources, if there arises any conflict, or if there arises need to interpret the law, then the judiciary comes in. The courts are in place to adjudicate conflicts and to help us interpret our laws. Now, when all these agencies work in harmony, we have the law that regulates everything we do. The next time you see us here, we are going to be sharing with you which particular institutions implement which laws, with the view of enabling you to understand how this relates to you, how this relates to your day-to-day operations as a person. Till then, wish you the best. And so we shall be trying to use as ordinary language as is possible, and in lieu of that, please stay with us, because at the end of every episode we shall be sharing with you legal tips, things for you to watch out for in your day-to-day operations.